The times of the Russian Empire are gone forever. That's coming to you from the Polish president. That president said during a speech at the UN General Assembly that the empire of Russia will not return. The war in Ukraine must end and not just be frozen. In a quote, he says, "The Russians believe that the states around them must submit to them. We," he says, "of Poland, the Baltic states, and NATO say no." He says Russia believes that the days of an empire that collapsed 20 years ago are returning, that Russia's presence will once again become a reality for our region. He says that is not going to happen. Those times are gone once and for all. This brutal war must end, not turn into a frozen conflict, and this can only be done by restoring the full territorial integrity of the country of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Russia said Crimea is Russia. If you attack Russia, if you attack Crimea, you get nukes down your throat. They have said if you attack Russia, you get nukes up your behind. Now, this president also commented on a growing situation between the country of Poland and Ukraine. Said that it would be good if Ukraine would remember that it has received aid from Poland and that we are in a transit country for Ukraine. The defense minister of Poland has come under fire for disclosing a new top secret series of documents. This is on the country's military. The declassified documents indicate a new plan for a large-scale retreat of the Polish Empire in the event of a Russian invasion. You see, what they're planning to do is, as soon as Russia invades, Poland will pull back, regroup with NATO, and attack. Now, they said that they will surrender up to 40% of Poland's territory in the event of an invasion. It's indicated that NATO forces need to have up to 14 days to redeploy an international military contingent to the territory of Poland. They say the beginning of resistance to a Russian invasion begins today. At the time, the Polish army must have restraint, and they must be able to hold back the enemy of Russia on their own. Now, simulations of these hostilities have taken place during the Zima 20 staff exercise and a couple of others. The results were openly delivered to the public. On the 5th day of conflict, the enemy of Russia will be on the line. That's where the battles for Warsaw and strategic ports will show Poland captured. As a result of these exercises, the Polish Navy, the Polish armies, they are destroyed despite the current support of NATO. The campaigning continues in Poland, and they say that there must be time for NATO to prepare for a war. And they must prepare for war not just against Russia, but against Belarus as well. Now, the Finnish president has said that there is a growing risk of Russia using nuclear weapons in the war in Ukraine. He said in an interview with the New York Times that Europeans must not become complacent about this war. They must remember that you could wake up tomorrow to a situation in which nuclear weapons are used. They would change for the worse in an instant. We would see an escalation that cannot be de-escalated. In a quote, they say, "We in Finland hear voices that America should do this or America should do that." And I just wanted to indicate that if there is an escalation into a larger war, then the nuclear risk becomes obviously greater. We are in a very delicate situation, the Finnish president says. Even a small thing will have large impacts on events for the worse. This conflict, according to him, will last for years and years, and Europeans should have no delusions or illusions that what they're experiencing now will not get worse. They're saying everything from the price of your groceries, the cost of your gas, the violence that you see in your streets, and even the militaries crossing your borders, these situations are expected to happen. Now, he said in an interview that we must maintain relations between Europe and other countries. He says, "I don't mean a strong friendship, but the ability to tolerate and understand each other." Now, this week, Finland started to ban all cars with Russian license plates. Now, in addition, the Finnish president said that the conflict in Ukraine, when it's over, Russia must stay in Russia. They say it's of European interest that Russia does not take the path of hostility. There needs to be an insistence that we must sweep the Russians away. The president called on those who criticize Western leaders for indecision or delays to Ukraine. They say they have a great responsibility. He talked about meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin and said, according to him, Putin talked a lot about Russia's culture, as if they were obsessed with it. Shortly before the war, this Finnish president spoke to Putin several times, including at the request of the USA's President Joe Biden. They asked Russia not to attack. So you see how they told you, they lied to you, and they said that they had no idea Russia was going to attack. Well, even weeks before, we told you here, Russia was sending blood to the border. You don't send blood to put it in the bodies of your injured soldiers to the border for an exercise. You don't send the amount of doctors and nurses from the other side of the country to the border with Ukraine for an exercise. You send that when it's time. And we watch out for these indicators on this channel because it's these things that in open source intelligence gathering, you can start to see things happen before they do. Now, these talks between different presidents are basically meaningless. We know that what we are going to experience is an attack on you, your culture, your belief, and your wallet. In the USA, we are seeing a war economically. They say higher spending on gasoline, rising interest payments, these things precede official recessions, which when the US government says there's an official recession, that means you, the people, are in a depression. US personal interest rates are rising in a straight line. Gas prices are expected to go up to $5, $6, $7. If the Fed manages to avoid an official recession, it would be history making. This would be the first time in history, on record, that they could turn around all of the indicators of you being effed and make it so that the corporation stayed alive. They said it would be the largest move of personal interest expense since 1960 without a recession. Higher oil prices are just the latest problem. The Royal Bank of Canada, so it's not just America, the largest lender of mortgages in Canada, said that almost 50% of their homeowners, their mortgages, had an amortization period of longer than 25 years. That's up 40%. Three of Canada's largest banks see that 20% of their existing mortgages are negatively amortized. That means that their monthly payments on 20+% of their mortgages aren't even enough to cover the interest expense. So you pay your $1,200, $1,800 to your mortgage. You know how much is taken off of what you owe? Goose egg. A big zero. You end up owing more than your original monthly amount. Now, typically, variable rate mortgages with fixed payments experience this. Homeowners are beginning to foreclose, and they expect that to increase. 24% of mortgage holders in Canada are having trouble right now paying their monthly payments. The yield in the USA on a 10-year US Treasury is almost 4.4%, the highest since the 2008 financial crisis. Oil rising above $90 is a trend that indicates an inflation problem about to get worse. What happens if in a year we start to see even more problems, $150 oil? There's still a lot of information that's missing regarding the, at the time, taken over or possibly commandeered F-35 fighter jet that was lost somewhere over America. Experts in the technology sector that have a background or current operating space inside of the military-industrial complex, they say there might be an explanation for what happened. There have been white paper alerts for more than a year that say the operating system of the F-35 jet and other jets in the U.S. military have been leaked to China, have been leaked to Russia, and they are vulnerable to remote taking over or remote access. Now, there's no confirmation that this was the cause of the issue, but it does explain why the entire fleet was grounded. We see more property developers around our world going under. Sunak in China has filed for bankruptcy protection in the United States of America. They're looking to restructure over $10 billion worth of debt, and we see a huge amount of deleveraging on the way. Oil went up, as you know, in the 90s, up above $95 per barrel for the first time since November of last year. And some economists are out there saying that this gas price and diesel price will be up over $10. That means your cost of food up more than it is today. Can you imagine when you can only get a $10 tomato, a $10 cucumber? And if you think that's ridiculous, I'm going to remind you that it wasn't that long ago that these things costed pennies, and now they're costing dollars. So a $10 tomato, not out of the realm of possibility. What about a box of mac and cheese? I remember seeing them for a quarter. Sometimes they had BOGO deals. You remember the coupon days where you could basically get things for free. It's not like that anymore. So your food, your rent, your insurance, your electricity, everything, your gas, everything you own, it's going to be more and more expensive. Now, the Bank for International Settlements has warned that investors must begin to brace themselves for a prolonged period of volatility in all the world. This is the central bank to central banks. It wakes you up to knowing that we are living in some of the most dire economic times that we will ever live through. Corporate profit margins jumped to their highest level in 73 years. The median monthly mortgage payment went to an all-time high. Demand for second homes dropped 50%. So even the rich are less rich. In October, demand for these same homes were up 90%. Demand for primary homes is down 35%. This comes as mortgage rates are now above the great financial crisis. Demand is at its lowest since the 1990s. Debt defaults by U.S. companies are surging almost 200%. The S&P data is showing that high interest rates are pushing more businesses into financial destruction. 69 firms missed major debt payments. This is up from just 25 last year. The media and entertainment industry was the most affected. Yield curve inversion is the highest on record. The 10-year minus 3-month Treasury yield curve has been inverted for 210 trading days. This is the longest stretch in recorded history. So you can start to see that this isn't just a we problem. This is a world problem. Your ability to live, your ability to survive, your ability to thrive are under attack. The real issue comes when people start to realize that their attacks against them in their wallet are really no different than being hit in the face by an aggressor. And then they start looking for who did it. They start looking for who can I blame this on. When that blame shifts from Russia, shifts from China, and becomes the politicians they put into office, that's when you have that good old, really disastrous time of revolution. We expect it. You expect it. 60% of the U.S. population, more than 60%, expects a civil war. They're going to try and puppeteer you against each other. They will use your belief. They will use your skin. They will use your status. They will use everything to try to pit you against each other. Because if we work together and everybody starts to see who the real problem is, the real problem makers, it's game over. Then it's the end of the world as they knew it. And that's something that they just can't allow. Make sure you check back here tomorrow. Full Spectrum Survival only on YouTube. Get more information on what's going around in our world and help people get prepared. From my family to yours, please stay safe and keep watch. This week's Full Spectrum News is brought to us by you. All of our members on Patreon, make sure that you check out contingencymedical.com. Use the code FSS10 for real antibiotics from real doctors. nutrientsurvival.com/FSS has meals that are ready to eat. You can just pop them open, eat them. They're long-term storable. You can keep them in your car. You can keep them in your cabin, wherever you have. And then you can use them when you want to. FSS 15 gets you a 15% discount there. But no matter what you do, get a can of chicken, a bag of rice, and get ready.